Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon review for this morning's live press conference reaction. Gladly joined by Stato himself this morning on his debut on one of these videos. Got the day off work because it's his good lady's birthday, so he's jumping on for the press conference reaction. Now, there is some more injury news. Would you believe it? Yes, it just seems to be an ongoing feature with Newcastle United. These injuries just are non-stop, and unfortunately it looks like we're without Lewis Hall for tomorrow as well, but we'll come on to that. If you do enjoy the show, guys, or you're watching it on a rerun, please do stick a like on it. It's very important to the channel to keep those in, and of course, if you're new and you like what you see, why not become a subscriber, become a member of this brilliant community here on the Toon Review. It's free to do so, to subscribe. And also, don't forget to hit the notification bell, which will let you know when we schedule the live shows or we upload any recorded. Of course, you can become a member of the Toon Review. Just hit that join button. Lots of prizes for our members coming up very, very soon. And of course, you can donate to the channel as usual by hitting that $sign at the bottom of the live chat, and that will take you through to payment method. And you also get your comment guaranteed to be read out on the show. Right. Stato, it just seems like these injuries are non-stop. I mean, you've come on this morning talking backstage. You didn't know about the Lewis Hall situation. Eddie's confirmed that he hasn't trained all week. But, you know, it's... I mean, we'll come on to Lewis Hall in a minute, but these injuries are becoming a right absolute farce now.
Yeah, it's... I'm sure Eddie's just absolutely sick of hearing about it, to be honest. As are we. It's ridiculous. I know we kept the likes of Dummett around for experience, quota reasons, and in case of serious emergencies, but you don't expect that you're going to need them in those emergencies. You say it out loud, but you don't think that realistically you're going to get so many injuries that you're going to need to delve that far into the depths of your squad. Sort of, it's getting frustrating now. And the fact that obviously you'll get onto it, but I don't know who else is available, whether Target's going to be in contention or whether it's just flat out going to be Paul Dummett. But we'll have
I mean, you mentioned before the start of the show, Brennan Johnson against Paul Dummett. Frightening is the word I'd use for that. Absolutely frightening. But let's get on to what the manager had to say. Now, on Joe Willock, first of all, he says, Joe has been to see another specialist to check on the progress of his Achilles, which has been problematic for him. The feedback was positive. For Tottenham, I don't think he'd be available. We need to make sure the long-term prognosis for him is positive, so he may need some rest. Judging by that comment, Alex, I mean, listen, when he says the feedback was positive, I take no notice of that these days now, about any feedback being positive, because the rest of it says that the long-term prognosis, we need to be positive, so he may need some rest. That says to me that we're not going to see Willock for a good period of time, Alex. I mean, I know we've got a 2-week break now, but Achilles are never easy to heal, and they're not. Obviously, Eddie's not going to take a risk on him now for the rest of the season, by the looks of things.
Yeah, I'd say that's him done. Not knock it on the head for the rest of the season now, and just get him rested and get him fit for the following season. Yeah, there's no point in risking, because he's 24. He's a good player when he's fit. He's a very good player when he's fit. And instead of playing this silly game, I think it's just time to knock it on the head. Season's done for him. It's been a horrible season for him for injuries. It's been a big shame. But yeah, we just need to knock it on the head for this season. He's got all of pre-season where he can recover as well, and then hopefully should be good going into 24-25 season.
Dylan says there, lads, I'd rather play Richie at left back than Dummett. Mike says, yes, it's becoming a joke with these injuries. Players becoming injured. It's ridiculous. Does AI ask them questions to Eddie? You'd get the feeling that they do, because as far as I can see, I mean, we'll come on to it when he mentions Dummett, but there's nothing about Matt Target said. Now, I haven't watched the video version of it. I've just got obviously the quotes from the website and things like that about what Eddie's had to say this morning. But obviously they do a video version of it. Now, I haven't seen that yet, so I don't know if he's mentioned Matt Target in that. But the fact is that Joe Willock is is vital to us, and a fit Joe Willock is a very, very good player. But it's been clear, Alex, certainly within recent games, that something hasn't been right, because he hasn't been his normal self. He's stayed well out of the game, if you like. He doesn't get himself involved, and he doesn't seem to have that burst of pace, which would insinuate that there is a problem there.
Yeah, I mean, now Anderson's back,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully fine. It's not as much of an issue because they are a similar-ish profile of player anyway. Of course, Willock's a little bit more pacey. He's a lot pacier, and he's provided some of those worldy assists. He's obviously got a better goal-scoring record than Anderson has, but Anderson's only 21, Willock's 24. Willock's had 3 additional years of having a go at this. But Anderson fits that role quite well, left-sided 8.
Yeah,
powerful, athletic, probably a little bit more physical than Joe Willock is. And has played out wide left, so it offers us something similar, like for like replacement. It is fine in the current 11. It's not an issue. It just means that Anderson's going to have to get up to speed quicker than he maybe was going to have to if there was 2 of them to rotate and get their fitness up. That was probably the plan: is Joe Willock and Anderson could slowly build up fitness together until they're proper ready for it. And unfortunately, they're not going to get the chance to do that. Anderson's just going to have to, and we've got to be patient with Anderson, because maybe Anderson's only going to give us 70-80% performances. He's going to need a bit of time to get back up to full tilt as well. So it is a shame, but at least we've got Anderson to plug that gap. It's not like it was a few months ago where it was Miley and then nobody behind that. So
Fubar Steve says, off topic, I think changing the shirt sponsor for tomorrow and the haptic shirts for the deaf supporters is an amazing gesture by Newcastle, and I hope it gets the press coverage it deserves. Yeah, there has been quite a lot of press coverage about it, actually, and it was I heard it on the radio this morning, so they're getting radio coverage of it as well. And I just hope as well that other clubs maybe take on this idea. It's a very, very good idea. It's a vibration in the shirt, Alex, which mimics the crowd roaring and things like that. So it gives the deaf people an opportunity to try and experience a little bit of the atmosphere by that way.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing by the club. I love a lot of what they're doing at the moment, because obviously we really wanted to push. It kind of goes into what a lot of people have said with, they want to ignore. They don't want profits. They want. But what was it? The trust said, was it people first, not profits? It's been banded around.
Yeah.
And it's a nice vibe, because we expected us to push quite hard in marketing and commercial deals and sponsorships. And refreshingly, there's been some really nice stuff come out of the club recently, with the special. Is it the box that's the anti-noise box? I can't remember what it's called.
It's a sensory room or something like that.
Yeah,
I believe it is.
Sensory room. And you've also obviously got this, which is amazing. I've seen the shirt mock-ups; they look great. They've got the little sensors in so that they can actually experience the vibrations and the atmosphere of the day. It's really nice, because it goes all the way back to the theme with Bobby Robson's quote about, you looking up and, you just fall in love with the ground, with St. James's Park and with Newcastle. It's that theme of, it's just lovely. It's great. And it's nice to see we're doing that, because we need to remember where we came from. We need to not just push aggressively into commercial deals and sponsorships. It's more than that. Football is a global, it's an international language. It's everybody's hobby around the world, and everybody can enjoy it, whether they're disabled, old, young. It's irrelevant. Everybody can enjoy football.
But on the other side of it, Paul, do you have an update on the Steward incident? No, the club have not got back in touch with me. Now, I did say last night on the show that the Newcastle United Supporters Trust had got involved in this as well. I've heard from their chairman this morning to say that they have now left it in the hands of the club. The club are aware of it now. The club have said that they have had various news on it, and from my emails, from the trust's emails, from them, all the shabam that they've been sent about it. And the trust have said now it's in the club's hands. So they've done their bit, and I've done my bit. It's up to the club now. They said they're going to do a full investigation, but the club themselves have not been in touch with me yet. So obviously we'll see what becomes of the investigation, but I have not had an apology at all from the club as yet, but we'll wait and see what happens on it. I will reiterate my stance that I won't be going back to St James's Park until I do get the apology. But you can see that there is parts of the like we've just discussed there is parts of the disabled side of things that Newcastle United are really working hard on, and it's very, very good to see. The sensory room, the sponsor on the shirt tomorrow, it's all very, very positive. And you know, I do want to point that out. What happened to me and a few other disabled people this season, that needs addressing by the club, but it looks like the club are in the right direction with regards to looking after their disabled fans. And this is another side of it that needs looking at and dealt with. Now, if they're dealing with all of this positively, then I get the impression that they will deal with this, and they will deal with what I've received from other fans as well. So it's all hopefully going to end up in a positive nature, where the feedback that they get from myself and the other disabled people who have been in touch with me, we can work with the club to make things better on that side of things as well. So, you know, I'm not
just time, isn't it? You got.
Well, it is, but I'm just sticking by my morals, not going back until I get a full apology. But
I mean, they've got to wait, haven't they? Just in case, they've got to investigate it correctly and fairly, because there might be situations where there have been false claims made against staff in previous incidents, so they have to try and make sure they do it. You know, because it's somebody's job. On the turnstiles and stewards, they've got to do it. So that I'm sure it will just take a bit of time.
I mean, there is clearly a problem there, judging by the feedback that I've had. But like I've just said, that, you know, with all the stuff that they're doing in a positive way for disabled fans, then I think, you know, once they get the feedback of this happening, hopefully it's dealt with, hopefully it changes, and then we can all move on. So, you know, we'll see what happens in the coming days. Rufiad Benisian says Mbappe does not know about Rabiot. Julie, just say it relatives on transfer market. We'll come on to that at the end, because we'll cover in the press conference in a minute, and then we'll do a little bit of news afterwards, and Rabiot's certainly there. Now he goes on, Alex, to talk about Joelinton's new deal, obviously, which he was asked quite quickly about. He says, amazing news for all of us. Such a great player and a huge boost. We are glad he sees his future here. He has never doubted his love for Newcastle or his wanting to stay. He is very popular internally. Everyone looks at Joe as a winner. He has a brilliant bond with the supporters as well. Hopefully that is a big lift for everyone. It is a big lift, Alex. As soon as we heard the news, there was rumblings earlier on in the week that they had a verbal agreement that Joelinton was going to sign, of course. And then it was just a case of waiting for the club to announce it. But like always with these announcements, the club do it when they want, not when they're pressured into it. And obviously they released that yesterday, and it's everybody felt a sense of get in, 4 more years of Joelinton. But it's not just 4 years of Joelinton, Alex. It's where he's come from. The first 2 years at the club were quite forgettable for Joelinton. The abuse he took, the awful comments made about him. Listen, I did the same. And I hate myself for for criticising him, but he didn't look the player that he is now. That's fact. But now he's become my favourite player. He's become a lot of fans' favourite player. And you have to take your hat off to him for what he's been through and where he's come from and now where he's at.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it was generally understood that he was in the wrong position anyway. As for Hoffenheim, he played a little bit more of a deeper role and slightly wider as well. He played wide left. And he got a lot more involved in build-up at Hoffenheim. So for him to come into the Premier League and try and be a 9, he had to try and make things happen in 2 touches. And he's one of those players that needs a bit more of the ball, needs to feel his way into the game. And you don't get that opportunity as a 9 in the Premier League at all. You need somebody like Callum Wilson, who's quite happy to just take 2 touches and make it count. And it didn't really suit him at all. And obviously he was very young at the time. What was he, 22?
Yeah, he was a youngster. Yeah,
he was young. And yeah, it was pretty obvious that he needed more of the ball in a position change. We didn't quite predict he was going to go quite as far back into midfield and be a destroyer. Even Eddie Howe didn't really think of that. That was kind of an accident that happened because of Kieran Clark sending off at Norwich that game. So it kind of accidentally came about anyway. And and he's necessary for us. He's a very unique profile of player. You don't tend to have too many profiles like that. You do have kind of your Rodris and stuff in the Premier League, but he's a lot more of a sitter. Joelinton does anything but sit. He's that big physical presence, but he's a battering ram. He will just punch through your midfield. He's one of the reasons why we beat Manchester City in the Carabao Cup. A player like that can win you games purely because he can get you that extra control of the game, that extra 10% possession, that extra dominance. He's just so useful, and we need that umph. A lot of people have criticised the fact we've lost a bit of tenacity since maybe Christmas-ish time. And a lot of that is, I would say, down to Joelinton not being in the side, because it spurs everyone else on to be a little bit nastier as well. So it's so important. I appreciate that 4 more years is going to take him, to about 31 years old. So it'd be interesting to see how a player like him declines, or whether we see any decline in that 4-year period. Possibly not. If we can keep a bigger squad and we can start to develop, we can hopefully get the best out of him for 4 years.
Well, I was thinking this, Alex. Once maybe his pace starts to dwindle or that kind of thing, he's a ready-made centre back as well. Start training him as a centre back for his later in life years, and I'm sure he could do a job there as well. He's got the bulk, he's got the physicality. Well, you never know, do you? I mean, players have done it in the past. I'm just making excuses to keep him. Just keep him forever. Now we'll talk about the team news that Eddie went through. He says the closest player to coming back would be Tino Livramento. He is not trained with the team, but he has been out on the grass, which again indicates that he's not available tomorrow either. Lewis Hall has not trained at all this week, so he is a concern from last week. Other players are doing well in the background, so I am hoping in the not-too-distant future we can get 3 or 4 back. But again, Alex, it's the I'm hoping, and we've heard this many, many times. Now, Geordie Toon for Life has just informed me that Targett is out with a worse injury than thought at first. He's got an Achilles injury as well, and that's come from Eddie Howe. I mean, this is. I mean, where do you go with this? I mean, Achilles, and I mean, I don't think we'll see Targett back this season. If I'm openly honest, if Targett's out with an Achilles injury and it's worse than thought, I don't think Targett's going to be back either.
The problem is, it's even worse than that, because I think Targett was possibly on a list of potential players to sell. This summer.
Yeah, he was.
And that's going to be a lot harder to do if there's no demonstration of him playing. There's no sort of dress rehearsal. We can't show him in the shop window back end of the season for a summer transfer. If he's going to be injured, it's drastically going to decrease the kind of value we could get for him, because a lot of teams that would be recruiting him would have little to go on from this season, and they wouldn't be super confident in what is his current condition, what level can he currently play to, because even we can't probably tell you that, and he plays for us, so it makes it really tricky. And he is on the rumoured 100 grand a week, which I don't think is true. I think it's probably less than that.
I'd be astounded if he was on over 100 grand. Jesus,
still probably quite a lot, to be fair. When you consider there's a lot of our first teamers on 35 and 45, to have Matt Targett on 80, I think is probably just indicative of him coming in later when we have the new ownership model. I think that's just right place, right time. But yeah, that's frustrating, because he could have been a cheeky little outgoing to supplement some summer spending, which is now probably not going to happen. We've got a lot of fullbacks to move on. Jamal Lewis still exists. We're going to have to do something with him, because his contract hasn't expired yet. It's not expiring in the summer. He's still got more beyond that. So, yeah, it's getting tricky.
I mean, I don't actually know. I mean, look, we can speak as fans till the cows come home about where the injuries are coming from and how we're getting like this. But it is interesting that, a lot of Bournemouth fans have been in touch with Newcastle fans lately, telling them that it is weirdly similar to what happened at Bournemouth with injuries. And the Bournemouth fans, I guess, are trying to look to Eddie Howe and his coaching team and his training methods. Was that part of the breakdown at Bournemouth? We saw his last season, it was horrendous injuries, absolutely horrendous. I don't think, though, it was as bad as what he's got at Newcastle now. We look at that injured 11, Alex, and that injured 11 could probably finish in the top half of the Premier League.
Well, we've got 12 out was it 13? 12 or 13 out, including Tonali's suspension.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we went over this in a recent show. The quality, we could field a legitimate starting 11 that I would say could challenge for European places.
Yeah.
And those are players that are not available at the moment, which is just ludicrous.
I mean, look, people are going to look. There's a lot of people shouting at Eddie Howe about it, and I'm not sure it's all down to Eddie. It's. We spoke about this on a show not long ago, Alex, when we said that, when we found out Newcastle United were going to do a full internal investigation into this in the summer. Now, it's clear that the communications between certain departments are not right at the minute. They can't be. I think the injuries, I'm not blaming Eddie Howe for the injuries. I really do think it's been just a bad luck season for injuries. It's just been a horrible bad luck stretch.
Recently, right, if we try and everybody's just going to blanket blame people, but if we try and look back at the recent ones, so Matt Targett is just a reoccurrence of issues that he sustained in that cup game when he went off really early.
Well, it was a hamstring, isn't it? But now that's turned into an Achilles, which is weird.
That can happen though. When you get one injury, you can get more. It is a thing. It's happened with Joe Willock. I don't think that's our fault. I don't think that's the physios and the medical team's fault necessarily. He was fine last year. His hamstring went very, very ping against Brighton, and then he got an Achilles injury as well. And that can happen. Tino obviously just rolled over on his ankle. We watched it. It's not any way he's trained or what the medical staff have done. He simply positioned his foot and he went over. That's not. Yeah. I would struggle to see how you can blame a doctor for that. That's just very unlucky and it's very bad timing for Tino. And then obviously you've got a lot of other ones in the squad, such as Murphy with a shoulder, Pope with a shoulder. The ACL on Lascelles was impact, so that's not training. Botman's, you could argue. I mean, it was impact at that time, wasn't it? He landed funny.
It was during the game where
it was managed. The aftermath was managed a bit poorly. Maybe it was. Botman.
Well, I was going to come on to that, Alex. Do you think? And Niall makes a good point here as well. A lot of injuries are reoccurrences, so obviously they're not getting the recovery time. I think that is something that they will look at. Is have the players been given the sufficient recovery time?
Do you mean between games, or just mean recovering
recovery from the injuries, Alex? Because if you look at
them, because we're talking about we're giving them loads of time, right?
Well, yeah, but if you look at some of the other situations this season, bringing players back too soon, we've seen it 3 or 4 occasions where they've come back a little sooner than we expected, and they've broke down within minutes of being back on the pitch.
League cluster of games. It was getting to Christmas and forcing it that's done this. I think personally, we had the Tonali situation, and we had a few niggles here and there, and we just forced it. I think Eddie was a little bit naive in not rotating the squad enough, and maybe that's really unfair of me, because the squad rotation that he would have needed to have done would have been with the youth players, which he's releasing. So on the other hand, I kind of can't blame him, but at the same time, I feel like this is all because of that first stint. We started off with a bang. We were amazing. We were suffocating teams. We beat PSG 4-1. We were absolutely smashing people. We got a great identity. And then we got a few niggles here and there, and we just kept playing and playing and playing with quite a reduced number of, our first team. We were only using a small sort of first team. And now, after Christmas, it's just, they're just dropping like flies now. And I do think it's down to that.
I mean, some people are looking, saying, like Peter said, is it the training ground surface? I'm sure all of this will be done. It will be covered in the investigation in the summer in trying to find out.
It's been done in games, hasn't it? Like Lascelles, Botman, Pope, Murphy, Targett.
I mean, the thing makes a point to say Longstaff has been taken to the field with an injury for months. How is that not Howe's fault? I mean, you could look at the manager there and say, is he being strong enough with the players? When the players are telling him they're fit, is Eddie actually being strong enough to say, right, well, no, you're not. You're being left out. I mean, there is a duty of care to the players as well, whether they like it or not. And that's probably some of the issues that Eddie's had this season is, where do you find the balance between upsetting the player and keeping looking after the player,
Maybe this is going to be helpful because we can set a precedent now for next season and for squads going forward.
Yeah.
Maybe we can look back to this and reference it. maybe Eddie Howe can say at the start of next season, this is what happened to Sven Botman last year. Going forward, we are going to strongly recommend the medical advice that's given, and we highly suggest you take it. Obviously, you can't force anybody to do anything, but there needs to be a bit more of a line drawn in the sand, and just saying you need to be on team club, because what we're recommending is best for your health as a player and for the long-term future of you in your national team, for the club. We strongly recommend you just do what we're suggesting instead of players making general decisions on short-term goals, which I get Sven probably wanted to be part of that Euro squad. I get it. But for the long-term health of the club, sometimes you need to draw a line in the sand and just say, look, we're going to have to be a lot firmer on this going forward, because we can't have... And if we are a bit firmer with that, that could help mitigate and reduce 1 or 2 more injuries next season. And it adds up to our benefit. So obviously we're never going to be able to measure that, because you can't measure injuries that were kind of avoided, because you just don't know. But it can't be any worse than this season, can it? So
well, people have been doing some checking, Adam, Alex, and it seems like target is on 100 grand a week.
All the websites say that, but I think that's there have been a lot of reports saying it's closer to 80. And again, that's just me.
I mean, still 80 grand for a guy that's kicked the football a couple of times this season. It's mental. Anyway, he goes on to say about the win at Fulham last weekend. He says it wasn't a great performance, but we were dogged and determined. I thought it was a big step forward, not playing too well, but finding a way to score and win the game. We haven't been able to do that enough this season, find a way to win games like that. I agree with that, but I also say that, Alex, that I think Newcastle were very fortunate that Fulham didn't have a killer instinct last week, because if they did in the first half an hour, I think that game would have been over by half-time.
Yeah, they passed it around well. They had some good little passing sequences, good technical ability, well drilled. And yeah, we were very lucky that they couldn't finish their dinner, because that game could have been out of sight. To be completely honest, I think at this point in the season, it doesn't matter anymore. It absolutely doesn't matter. Identity can go in the bin as far as concerned for the rest of the season.
Absolutely.
There's six matches left after this. It's a case of we just need as many points on the board as we can get, and that's it. Obviously, we need to do the basics right. We need to have a good shape. We need to counter-attack well. We need to be physical. We need a good level of passing. But on the whole, I just think that it doesn't matter anymore. We're at that point in the season where if it comes off Dan Burns' arse and goes in the net, off a corner, fine. We just need points. We need goals. We need points. We can, we're not going to be developing stylistically with 13 players out.
Yeah.
It's just, we just need to play well, play structured. Everybody needs to be, concentrating in games, focusing for the full length of time, play to the whistle. It just needs to be proper fundamentals now. They've done a lot of training in terms of passing sequences, set pieces. I think our set pieces are always quite refreshing. I'd like to see a score more from them, but we can always see a lot of hard work on the training pitch, because you see lots of new passing patterns and things like that when we play. So they obviously do a lot of good work in training, but yeah, at this point, it's irrelevant. We just need points.
Exactly. And me and Billy said that during the match day live last week against Fulham, that, at the end of the game, we both said, look, it doesn't matter the performance. It's now all about getting points, like you've just said, Alex, and where we want to be. If we want to challenge for European place this season, then sod the performance, just get the 3 points. We can talk about the performance during match reviews and things like that and say, we could have been better in certain instances of the game. But now with what, 8 games or something left, if that, we've got to now...
Tottenham's our 32nd game and there's 38 in the season.
Six to go. It's going to be tough. It is going to be tough. The running's going to be tough with the squad we're going to have available. But we need to look after the players that are injured and not rush them back just for the sake of trying to get points and risking players' health. I just don't think that works at all. We've got a super chat from Mark Mullins. Thank you very much, Mark. You can't blame the manager for any injuries. He can only go on what the medical staff say on players' injuries. So for me, the med staff need looking at the most.
That's not true, because That's absolutely not true. I'm not saying he does deserve blame because we don't know.
Yeah.
But the medical staff can advise something such as he's probably fit to bring on for half an hour at the end of the game with X amount of warm up and this and this and that.
Yeah.
Eddie Howe could ignore that. He can choose to ignore that if necessary. And we don't know if that's been the case. So you can't say that and we can't say that. Eddie Howe can obviously get the advice from the club staff, but he can go against it. And we don't know if that's happened.
Yeah.
I would assume not, but maybe.
Well, I Like Coffee says, I read about this a couple of days ago that one of the Newcastle United goalkeeping coaches.
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he?
Suffered a serious injury as
I
well.
think it was an ACL or something bad.
Yeah. So it's even happening to the coaches.
Eddie Howe's going to get injured before the end of the season.
Well, I mean, you can just see him the last few games walking out on crutches. He may as well do that as a homage to all the injured players this season, to be fair. Spike says Eddie has final say on who plays. He chose to play injured players. Where is the duty of care? And I suppose, Alex, this is the sort of the sort of other side of things, other side of opinions, because, like Spike says, there's a lot of fans going to say, well, Eddie's still picking these players when he knows they're not fit. Sean Longstaff one, I think, is very interesting for me. The fact that he was brought back so quickly after what he quoted as saying practically a broken ankle. And he was rushed back within 4 weeks when he should have been. And I'm quoting Sean Longstaff here. Nobody, I'm not making this up. He should have been out for 10 weeks. He was brought back within 4, and he's never been the same player this season. You look at Jacob Murphy, who dislocated his shoulder, yet was playing a week later, and of course lasted a few minutes before it went again. These are the kind of mistakes that I think are going to be looked at, and certainly I don't think we'll see again next season. I'd be astounded, to be honest. Now, finally, Eddie Howe went to talk on about obviously Spurs, who we take on tomorrow, and he said, I admire them tactically, I admire them physically. A lot of credit must go to Ange for the job he has done and the philosophy he has implemented. I think they have played very well this year. I think Ange has done a brilliant job at Tottenham, Alex. There's no doubt about that. I think, when he came in, there was a few raised eyebrows saying, could he cope with the Premier League? Could he manage in the Premier League after what he'd done at Celtic? And you know what? I think he's done brilliantly. He's brought in some very, very good players. Losing Harry Kane, I think they've accommodated that very well. But they are fighting for Champions League. And that is, for me, what's going to make this game even more difficult tomorrow is that Tottenham are one of the teams fighting for the top 4. And they've got some very, very good players about them who can hurt us.
Yeah, they've obviously jumped into 4th place with a game in hand on Aston Villa. They are wanting to try and qualify for the Champions League, and they look better than the teams around them. Like the best of the rest are pretty poor at the moment with Manchester United and us and the chasing pack. It's we're having all kinds of problems. Man United are just a poor team, and we've got injuries. So,
well, if you listen to Goldbridge, it's injuries that are the problem with Man United. I think he seriously needs to look at ours.
Well, they don't tend to look at much news beyond a couple of the big clubs, do they? So it's Spurs are a good team. Is what you said about Ange? Yeah, I mean he's a very tactically sound manager. He's got his style of playing. It's open to changing as well. It's not a super fixed style, but it's a very modern style. But he commands respect. I think it's one of the nice ones because you get like your De Zerbis and your Nagelsmanns and your young players, even Potters to an extent, that come in and they're a little bit younger and they don't command that respect as much. They really have to earn it and force it. And it's hard to get that respect in football nowadays, especially if you're younger. Whereas because Ange is a little bit older, I think it helps that he's foreign as well. I think that does help. If he was English, there would be a bit more of a stigma around it. But because he's Aussie and he genuinely, he's got a great personality as well. He doesn't let the media control the narrative. He's very, very, he's funny as well. He knows how to command a sort of a press conference. So he's able to kind of take the pressure off them a little bit. Because it was all pressure on Spurs last year with Conte. And Conte and trying to win trophies and Daniel Levy, it was all over the press. Whereas this season, it's been a lot calmer. There's not been any drama publicly about Spurs. It's been handled very, very well. He's been able to transform this team with some interesting signings. They've got a good starting 11, a reasonably deep squad. They need to improve that if they're going to go into the Champions League. They play good football. They're going to grow. So Spurs are in a really healthy place right now. Compared to where they were 12 months ago with Conte, they're in a mess. And he's fixed it in a very short space of time. So credit to him. He's a cracking manager.
Now, obviously, Son is a standout player for Tottenham and things like that. And they've got some very identifiable players. I like what he's done with Richarlison, who was going through terrible mental health issues. And apparently, Richarlison has come out and really praised his manager for helping him through it. And it looks like Richarlison's form's actually improved a lot since he's come back from those problems. So you can see he's a man manager as well. He takes care of his staff. And I think Eddie Howe's up against it tomorrow, given the injuries. It does look as if Dummett is going to be our left back, Alex. I mean, what would you do? Would you move Dan Burn back to left back and put Dummett centre back? Or would you just leave as is?
I'd probably leave as is.
Yeah.
Reasons for doing so are not quite clear, but I guess it's just generally how I've seen them play. They've mostly played, they've not really played together much, but over the last few years, I'd probably say right now, gun against my head, I'd probably say I'd pick Dummett for the fullback and Burn for the centre half. I can't give you loads of insight as to why that would be. I guess just maybe pace. I feel like Dummett's
the main reason, Alex, as well though is that Cher and Burn have an understanding. You know, at centre back that partnership is a strong one.
Well, Burn's done okay in recent games at centre back. His passing numbers have gone up a lot. He's swatting things away out the air. He's traditionally built a lot more like a centre half.
Yeah.
And I think there's less risk as a fullback. If you make a mistake as a centre half, it's generally a goal. If you make a mistake as a fullback, there's still things you can put some fires out. Dummett's, I would say, a little bit quicker. There's a lot of people saying Richie in the chat.
I was just going to say that it's an interesting call.
He's quick enough,
but I can see him doing it though, Alex. That's the thing. Well, you're saying Richie, but is Dummett quick enough these days?
I think Dummett's quicker than Matt Ritchie.
Is Dummett quick enough to go against Son or Madison, etc.?
But
nobody is. Yeah, I know.
We've got to pick
That's the problem. Yeah, absolutely.
No, Matt Ritchie. I think he's brought him on at wing back like once, which is fine. But a left back in a back four, those days are very, very much over for Matt Ritchie. He's been deployed a lot further forward under Eddie Howe. He's been deployed as a right winger, as a left-sided 8. He's definitely not going to be a left back in a back four. If he is tomorrow, I will eat my words and apologise to you guys who have said Ritchie, but I just don't think he's got the defensive experience or mindset to cope at this kind of level anymore.
I agree 100% with you, Alex, but I also believe that he could throw, you know what he's like for throwing a spanner in the works. However, Niles just mentioned Alex Murphy there as well, who played left back a couple of times in pre-season and looked very, very good. So he does have the option of Alex Murphy left back as well.
He doesn't tend to throw them in though, does he?
Well, I mean, this would be a perfect chance for me though. You know, rather we know what Dummett can do. We know what Ritchie can do. Why not give Alex Murphy an opportunity to show him and the fans what he can do at left back? Because he looked sound as a pound in pre-season. I know it's pre-season, but you know what I mean. He's got to get a chance sometime.
I completely agree. He looked great in pre-season, but there's nothing on the line there. It's not as many fans watching as well in pre-season games abroad. The difference is, and this is what I mentioned about Lewis Miley at the start of the season, is we've got to protect these young players because there's a lot of fickle fans in the fan base. And if Alex Murphy starts this game and he makes a mistake that leads to a goal for Spurs, there will be a good 20-25% of the fan base will instantly turn on him and say, he's not good enough for the football club. Which is not very good for his progression, for mental health. It's tough. And I know some people will say, we'll just man up in the traditional sense. Well, you don't really do that in 2024. We've got to protect these young players because they've all got social media. Their friends and family have all got social media. They hear all these things and it's not good for their development. So bringing in a youngster, if he has an issue in that first game, it could hurt and hinder his development going forward. I think it's just a case of just protecting them a little bit, take them out the firing line.
Yeah.
Dummett made that mistake a few weeks ago. He's a big boy. He's 31, 32 years old. He's played for, I was going to say he's played for his country. He's not. He's English, but he plays for Wales. But yeah, that's by the by.
That really grinds on you, doesn't it, Ali? Every time you mention...
I hate the fact that he identifies as a Geordie.
Geordie, yeah.
But he plays for Wales. I feel like you've got to pick a lane.
Yeah,
I feel like
he'd never got picked for England, would he? So let's be honest.
Because I even though I was born in the Isle of Man, I've always supported England because my whole family are English. And even if Isle of Man got a decent national team, I would never skew. I'm England through and through in terms of national team. I just feel like he's got to pick a lane. I don't feel like you can have one foot in both camps. You can't be a Geordie and Welsh. That's not. You can be half. You could be half and half through, I guess, family. But it's just a bit odd in my eyes. We've gone on a bit of a tangent here anyway. But
yeah. Well, it always does when you talk about Dummett and Wales.
I think we just need to protect Alex Murphy a little bit in the same way we did with Miley. Miley was obviously fortunate that he's not really made any mistakes. We did. There were a lot of mistakes because of the midfield gaps that was partly due to Miley. But because it wasn't an obvious he's made a mistake, he kind of got ignored, which was nice. And everybody still loves Miley, which is great. But we do have to protect these young players at some point because we've not got much in the way of academy prospects at the moment. So
no, absolutely. Caseball UK, thank you for your super chat. He says, "How hates youth?" Alex Murphy in. Fubar Steve says, "Murphy for left back. Only take one goalkeeper and have Dummett and Richie on the bench to replace him if needed." Mike says, "Yes, give Murphy a chance. It's the only way to see how he handles the pressure of a Premier League game." Toon Gamer says, "How only plays youth as a last resort, unfortunately." Spike says that's Eddie's fault, not playing the young kids when scraping the bottom of scraping the bottom of the barrel. Looney Tunes says, "Only way we scrape a result tomorrow is if we outscore them because we will ship goals tomorrow." Eddie is going to the game. I'm not going. I would have gone, but I'm not going until I get a full apology from the football club for what happened with me, but we've been into that. Right, finally, Alex, just touching on this, from Rufiad Benisian earlier on in the show. What do you guys think about the Adrian Rabiot on a free, as there are reports from Italian media where you've initiated talks? Now, I've seen this as well, Alex. I think if I was going to do a daily news show today, which doesn't tend to happen when we do these live shows on a Friday, but interesting because he has been linked with us before. We've done transfer shows on him before. Because we've mentioned I think it's his mother who deals with his contract and things like that as well. And she's supposed to be a real hard-nosed player when it comes to contracts. But what do you make of that?
I think it's nonsense.
Right.
Personally.
Fair enough. I mean, it is Italian media, so I would agree with you on that front.
Yeah, the Italian media here, throughout the whole Tonali and the Botman sightings, the Italian media were nasty.
Yeah. A
lot of it was nonsense. And we're used to the English media, which is got a reputation, but the Italian media is next level. It was very difficult to read through the nonsense. But yeah, with Rabiot, a lot of this is down to the fact that we've just re-signed Joelinton for 4 years, who plays on the left side of midfield as the 8, as the destroyer, drifts onto the left side. Rabiot would do kind of similar. He's a left-footed midfielder who is a water carrier, who is physical. He progressively carries the ball. He's good at tackling, but he's 29 years old as well, so he's not that youngster that he once was. I can't see it because we've just re-signed Joelinton. I think if Joelinton was going to go, we would aggressively pursue options like this. I don't think we would ever get Rabiot anyway, purely because of his wages and Mummy's signing on fee that she would demand, because he's been a bit of a problem in a lot of clubs with. I remember when he first was about to leave PSG on a free, he got banded around Europe by his mother, and his mother was there were some really funny stories about his mother throwing her toys out of the pram at Bayern Munich and stuff. And it was no, I don't think that's going to happen. He's a great player. He's definitely gone under the radar in the last couple of years because he was sort of one of the top players, and that's kind of disappeared. But I don't think it feels like a very Manchester United signing to me, to be honest. And for
well, providing it's Ten Hag next season and not Southgate, who of course will sign
Henderson back. That's fine.
Henderson, yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say that. Right, that is it for today, for this morning's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Just to let you know of a couple of shows over the weekend. Tonight at 7 o'clock, we got TTR Friday with myself, Billy, and Sam. Alex is out for a posh meal. Obviously, as I said, it's his partner's birthday. And we wish Anya a very, very happy birthday and hope she has a great day today. But Alex will be out dining, so it'll be the three of us with all the usual segments in the show, as well as you guys coming on and having your say on Newcastle United, quizzes, etc. So don't miss that at 7 o'clock tonight. And then noon tomorrow, of course, is Match Day Live with myself and Billy. Possibly Alex join us before, during, and after the game. We'll see what he's doing tomorrow. Sam could possibly join us as well in the build-up. So lots to look forward to on Match Day Live as well from 12 noon. Full play-by-play commentary of the game. If you're watching it on the TV, knock the commentary off and listen to me and Billy, and we'll watch the game together. And don't forget Patreon, guys. It's basically £5 a month for Patreon. It gives you extra content from the Toon Review away from the camera. Brilliant podcasts such as transfers and match reactions, talking about Newcastle legends and the history of the club. There's some great stuff on there. The link is down in the description, but it really does help the channel as well. So if you want to check that out, the link is pinned down below. And then, of course, Sunday we will have the match review from the Spurs game at 7 o'clock on our usual time. But thank you very much for all your comments this morning, all your very good comments, actually. And you know, we've had a very good discussion about the injury situation this morning as well. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for your super chats, etc. Mods, thank you again. Alex, thank you for your company this morning. And I will see you with Billy and Sam back at 7 o'clock for TTR Friday. In the meantime, have a wonderful day, folks. See you soon.
Away, the lads and lasses.
Come back and check on some green.